Okay, welcome to the first edition of the Tom and John Show. In 2016, we're joined with Bill Kreuser from the University of Nebraska in Lincoln. Is that how you pronounce your last name? I screwed
Yeah,
that up.
it's actually Kreuser. It's German. It's a beer making process, Kreusening. So I guess I was a beer maker. So I'm an Irish German. I got beer in my blood.
Does it have some little symbol or something over one of the letters? If you if you had it like German, I don't know if it would be like.
I don't think so. Like EU just makes an oi sound in German. I don't even speak German, so I'm really disrespecting my heritage, I guess. But
Anyway, welcome to our first episode in 2016. Tom's not with us today. He's out running around consulting or something, but you get me. So I'm excited to talk to you today. Obviously, mobile applications and technology is something I'm interested in, and also your research. I thought I'd give you a little bit of a background and then let you tell us about yourself.
Sure.
So your background. Okay, so you're from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You went to UW for your bachelor's degree and also your master's degree with Doug Soldat. And you went on to Cornell and worked with Frank Rossi before heading off to the University of Nebraska in Lincoln. And I think you've been there 2.5 years. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started in this industry in general and about what you're doing now?
Yeah, sure. So I actually got in the turf industry when I was 15 because my uncle told me that it'd be impossible for a kid to put a putting green in their backyard. So I said, yeah, watch this. So went out, got the materials to build a USGA green in the backyard. Took a little bit of learning, figure it out, learning how to schedule applications and maintain it and build it. It's amazing what you can find online. And so I got in industry that way, and then I had a great mentor in high school. So if you're a superintendent out there, take that opportunity to get new, young, excited people in the industry seriously. Because I had like Jerry Kreuser at Westmore, really got me excited about turf management. Helped get me to go to Wisconsin, where I started doing my bachelor's degree. And never thought I wanted to do research ever. Thought I wanted to be in golf course management the rest of my life. That's what I love to do. And then I just started doing research as an undergrad, just some money on the side. And I was always a curious person. And, I kind of just slowly evolved. So sophomore year, we started doing research with plant growth regulators on putting greens, mainly because my green in my house was shaded. And I heard Primo would help out with shade tolerance. And so I thought, how often do I need to apply it to really understand, how to do that? And that just evolved into my master's degree with Soldat. So it really was just constantly asking questions and trying to figure things out. And it got me to where I am now, really.
So how was maintaining that putting green in your yard? I mean, that seems like a pretty tough thing to do.
Yeah, it was tough. It failed right away because at first I said, I wanted a sand-based green. I go down to the local quarry and say I need sand. I'm 15. I don't know. It's different types of sand. So they gave me torpedo sand, which is a mix of fines and like really coarse material. It's turned into cement. I mean, even weeds wouldn't grow in it. So we ended up replacing the whole thing, bringing in USGA spec materials from a good supplier. And now it's A4 green. It's still there. My mom still takes care of it because they like to putt on it in the summer. So I just give them some advice and try to keep the mower sharp is the biggest challenge for us.
I hope no homeowners see this in this episode.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they got to be total grass nerd like me. I mean, lots of hours went into that, and my friends in high school called it my putting brown because of how bad it looked for the first year. But after that, I got run 13 for my birthday party before I went to college. So it just took a long time to figure it out.
That's pretty good. Where did you work, like intern stuff when you were in school?
Yeah, so again, before I went to college, Westmore Country Club, Jerry Kreuser was so important to me. He's a big guy on Twitter. You may follow him. He really got me into the industry. And then I did 2 internships at Whistling Straits for the 2017 PGA or U.S. Senior Open. So did that for the first 2 years, and then I started becoming Soldat's research manager as a junior in college because I was really into the research, and he said, you can just take care of all my field plots. And so that was the last time I really worked on a golf course was Whistling Straits, 2007.
7. Okay. You said 17. I was like, that's next.
No, 7. Yeah.
Okay. So you were obviously now, I mean, it's actually a good transition because you were obviously interested in managing this putting green in your backyard, and you saw, you heard that Primo is going to help with shade tolerance. And why don't you talk about maybe that didn't transition into your master's degree, but talk about your interest in the growing degree day models with solar.
Yeah, no, it totally did. It was the reason the putting green in the backyard is the reason that growing degree models existed, because I go to the label and it's it's vague, which is really good because it gives you lots of flexibility in how you want to apply a primo. But when you don't know anything about turf, being vague is a struggle. So I go out to Wayne Cousteau, who was my undergrad advisor and really shaped my research skills. And he's like, well, let's just do a study. So we did different intervals, different rates, and we were trying to finding some different things. We're doing that in October because I just got back to school, and we saw really good control, but we weren't seeing that in the summer or hearing about that same amount of control in the summer. So I stumbled onto Bruce Branham's research with Jeff Beasley showing the metabolism of a PGR is impacted by air temperature, and then thought, well, that's really interesting, but it's not very helpful. So can I actually use some type of growing degree day model that I just learned about in my agronomy class? And I'm not a farm kid. I didn't know anything about growing degree days until my intro agronomy class. And so, that next year that I was out with Doug, I just hid them on the side of one of the putting greens. And I remember it was like July, and Doug and I are sitting there going, what are we going to talk about for field day this year? And I'm like, well, I got this growing degree day thing over on this corner. You want to check it out? And that's really how that all evolved, is using temperatures instead of calendars to estimate how long a PGR is going to last.
So why don't you summarize what you found in there? I mean, I know the article, but what are the things now?
Yeah, and I've been talking about now since 2009, but really, as it gets hotter outside, the PGR, any of the PGRs now, we have done it from all the PGRs on cool season greens, they break down faster. And so in the summertime, you're gonna have to reapply at a tighter interval. And so for primo, we recommend 200 growing degree days is the interval that works really well with a base temperature of 0 Celsius. So it's a Celsius model. And that was some of the confusion. People are going Fahrenheit versus Celsius. And so I was trying to make tools to help superintendents keep track, because it's not a unit of measure that's very intuitive. Maybe you think about, you're doing a different temperature scale, and then you're adding them together, and it's just not the same as the high or the low. And that's something that simple. So initially we came out with the Excel sheet. And that Excel sheet, people could go in and type in their temperature data, and then it would predict, how much that primo is working. Are we in the suppression? Are we in that rebound phase where that turf grass grows faster than if it was treated with the PGR? And so, that was just kind of a tool, but it still required you to go in and type in your number for primo and your high and your low every day, and then it did the math for you. And so I always thought it'd be cool to have, some type of program that could do all that math for you, get the weather data. All you have to do is say, I put down this app today, and see what happens. So,
well, what was the Excel? Was it just like live in a Google Doc or something, or like where was it?
It's just an Excel sheet. We still even have it on our website in case people are in like a country, because our app is only for the U.S. uses the National Weather Service, free weather data. And so you can just download this app, and it's just got a macro in it. And now we have all the PGRs from all of our research in the last 9 years. So you can type in, say, Musketeer, and you can pick the rate, and it's made again for cool season greens, pole, or bent. And then you just go in every single day and you type in the high or the low, or if you have a weather station that just gives you the mean temperature, you just type in the mean every day, and it tells you, when, how many growing degree days have accumulated since your last app, how much growth suppression to expect, and then it warns you saying, like, you need to reapply your PGR because it's worn off. And so it's just a real basic Excel program with way too many if-then statements in there to, pick all the different PGRs and different rates.
Yeah. So you could have stopped there. And, I know there's some growing degree day models with Michigan State and the growing degree day tracker and POA seed head suppression and that kind of stuff. You could have just stopped there and been like, whatever. But you didn't. You took it to another level. So how did that go to the Greenkeeper app? And I guess just tell us about the app.
Sure.
And maybe show us some examples.
Yeah. So it all started with the Excel sheet. And again, there were still some issues there where people had to know, what unit of measure they're entering. Are they entering Fahrenheit or Celsius in the PGR? And it's just a lot of potential to make mistakes still until you became more comfortable with it. So to me, I thought it would always be great to have an app. And I've always wanted to have an app for this since 2010. But apps are expensive. I can't write apps, although I would love to be able to have that skill. I just have never really taken the time to learn the language, which is always evolving anyways. And so now I'm at Nebraska. I have all this model data, and thought, why don't we build an app that you can do this for us? And so it really started off just going to be an app. You put the date to the PGR, and then it calculates how many growing degree days. But then it became kind of clear that if we're going to be entering in our application data, why don't we just start expanding it to all applications? Because we're not just spraying just Primo or just Trimit or just Anew. We're doing that with a PGR or with maybe a fungicide or 2 fungicides and some fertilizers or surfactant. And so it's just kind of kept evolving. We thought maybe we could have an app where you could put your PGR, define the rate. You could also do your other products at different rates, and then push a button and it would tell you how to make your mixes, so you have some confidence in the math, and then log those applications and keep track of applications. So it's more than just a inventory tool. It really is a tool to help superintendents with math, with record keeping, with growing degree day calculation. And I have a whole bunch of ideas in the future of how we can do things with soil testing and fertility recommendations, and really integrating all the tools that we've been developing across the turf research community and bring us into this free app that people can use on any platform, on a mobile platform, on your computer, your laptop, your tablet, whatever.
So why don't you share your screen and show the overview of the website, and kind of give us a little bit of you already gave a pretty good information and description. Yeah. And then maybe give us some examples, like kind of show us the back end and how it works.
Sure. So this is when you first log in. You'll see this page once. This is a picture from one of our grad students in Hawaii. But you'll register here, or if you're an existing user, you just log in. It's greenkeeperapp.com. It's a website. It's not, you won't find it in the App Store. Greenkeeperapp.com. And then when you log in, this is kind of what my fake golf course looks like. And so you can see all my different areas here, my greens, tees, rough, a whole bunch of different areas. You can see applications that I've last made, the date the application was made, the active ingredients. So, for example, I have some Dacoma working out on these fake greens right now. And the pest I went for was a preventative leaf spot and preventative dollar spot application. I did that back on the 24th of April. Same thing with the legacy, PGR, it knows it's a PGR. It tells me how many growing degree days I've accumulated, and then the ideal interval of 214 for the legacy at the rate that I put it down at, and then how much growth suppression I'm expecting. Things like, temperature here. If you have Twitter, you can integrate your Twitter right into it. So it's pretty simple. I mean, if you want to make a new application, you can just come in here and you just make it say it's like an early season dollar spot on your greens, and you pick your greens. If you want any excess square footage, say for overspray, maybe put 5,000 square feet of extra, the date, and then the sprayer I want to use. It tells me how many tanks I need, how many gallons, and then I can come in over here and I can start picking the products I want to use. The rate I want to use is the interval that I want it to be. If it's for a fungicide, it's going to be days, not growing degree days. And I can even pick the pests and say if it's preventative or curative. And any kind of notes like EPA registration numbers, you can put it all in there. And it tells me how much I need to mix when I'm adding all these different products. And so it's just kind of one of those tools. Maybe the Emerald, and we'll do a Trimit application and come in and say that the rate I want to use, Trimit. Tells me how many growing degree days I should be doing. Maybe I want to be more conservative and say 250. And again, that's a GA pathway. Save that. So now over here, I have this recipe becoming made where I can see all my mixing instructions. And then when I finalize my mix, it gives me a PDF that I can give to my spray tech, and he knows how to mix up the 2 tanks. So it's kind of the idea behind the application. It's supposed to be really simple. You go and you define all your areas, and you'll see it on your homepage. I have that Trimit app and that Emerald app right on my homepage, so I can keep track of what's going on out there.
What do the percentages mean? That's percent that's worn off?
Yeah, it's days of the days that you've defined. And so that's one thing we're actually working to change right now. So it's going to be percentage, but I wanted to also say, it's 13 out of 21 days or whatever. So you get kind of a sense of what's going on. So they change color. They go green, then they go yellow, and they go to this orange, and then they go to a red to kind of give you an indication. And we're going to have a little button, a thing pops up now too, saying like, you know, your DAC and lap has expired. So if it does, I can just push X and get rid of it. So.
But does that kill the report, or is that?
No, so the reports then, they're all logged in my pest reports. Oh, no, wrong one. Past applications. So I have all my different past applications here on my different areas, and obviously I have a lot of test apps. But I can filter them by, say, just greens, and let's say just 2016. And they're all my apps for my greens in 2016. I can view them, I can edit them, and I can even download them all. So from a pesticide reporting requirement, I can go in and see all my applications. So again, just trying to make it simpler for our superintendent and users out there.
So, I mean, it looks awesome. I haven't been on the back end of it. I haven't like registered to do it, and I know it's so I could do that. But tell me about the construction of this site. Like, how did you build this? I mean, I know you had the idea from it, but how did you actually physically build it? Do you have Nebraska have people that help, or were you just savvy with some of the technology, or what?
No, so Nebraska had some people, they were doing some restructuring, and so I just went external to a local guy in Lincoln. You know, then I put about $25,000 into it, because I really thought this would be something that people could use in the industry, and I saw a potential for it. And so I just kind of took some of my startup package and said, let's just give this a shot, and we'll go from there. And so I went with a developer. It took a lot longer than I really thought it was going to take. I really thought it would be, you know, a couple months, but, you know, working bugs out and communicating science with someone that's got a, you know, computer engineering background, there's always some language barriers there, it seems like. And so that's always a little bit fun. But took some time constantly tweaking things. And, you know, we got about 950 users signed up for it now. And if we can start getting more and more, then I can start justifying, you know, more and more additions like fertility trackers and soil test interpreters and things that can be built right into this. That's all running on HTML5, so can scale to all platforms.
Right. I mean, is there a thought process of like expanding this to an actual application? I'm wondering how you. I mean, it is an application, but I mean, people can use on their phone. I'm wondering how you justify with it being a free app, because it does seem powerful, and there's others that are out there that aren't free. And so I'm curious how you justify it and keep putting money into it.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough thing, you know. The one thing about this is, first of all, keeping it a native versus a native app that you would download versus a web-based app. The nice thing about being web-based is the data is all in our secure cloud. So if you lose your phone or something, all your data is still there. And then you can also have multiple people access it. So you can have multiple users come through, and you can have your assistants and your spray techs, and they can all have access to your golf course. The revenue side, you know, is interesting. It doesn't cost a lot for me to keep it up and running. It's a couple $1,000s. We've gotten donations from, you know, different groups to kind of support this. You know, we thought about different ideas for how to, you know, fund this. And honestly, I don't want to get in the business of sitting there and like every year getting a subscription. It's just a pain in the butt to have to deal with, you know, 1,000 people's annual subscriptions for, you know, not a, you know, 50 or $100. So, you know, we're looking at some different revenue models for it right now, and trying to figure that out. You know, and I think from an extension standpoint too, it really is helpful because we can really see what's going on in the field. Like if we go to the pest report button, I can zoom out and I can see people that are making different applications, you know, around the country. And so, you know, like on the East Coast, there's been a lot of people in the last 2 weeks that have been making various applications. And I could click on these circles and see we have some leaf spot reports, anthracnose, you know, a lot of seed heads are going out. And so it really helps us in our extension. So a lot of the push nowadays is having extension be more impactful and showing our impact. And so if I can use some of this data to help understand, you know, what's going on there in the field, and how my extension program is you know, reaching the industry, that helps me get tenure too. So all the data is private. I can't look up anybody's golf course and just see like, oh, at golf course X, they did this, this, and this. There's some back-end protections that only my developer can see, and he signed an NDA to protect our users. So there is some information data sharing going on a very large scale, but not at a specific golf course level.
The information you're seeing there, is that information that any registered user can go in and see, though? That there's
Yep. Yeah, and so these circles, they move around. They don't fly right over your golf course. Every time I refresh this page, these circles are going to move about 150 miles around your golf course.
Right.
So that way we can protect people. And if you want to opt out, it's simple. All you do is when you make your application, you just don't define a pest. So by defining a pest, you're kind of crowdsourcing. You're helping people, say, oh, I got dollar spot here, or I'm doing my early season dollar spot, or the seed heads are awesome this year. We see the growing degree day maps from Michigan State's website, and I go on Greenkeeper and I'd see all these annual bluegrass green circles marching up the continent as those applications were going down. So it was really cool to match what you're seeing from what we should be doing to what is actually happening in the field.
That's awesome. So this data that's coming in, though, and that's private, so you can't see where it's done.
Yep.
Do you have the ability to create like a video map showing that progression, or like? That's
what I want to do. So what I've been doing is, and you can define your dates. All I really have to do is just go back through here and select my starting and end date, and just do them every week pretty much, and just do that course over the next month and a half, and then we'll see those applications. We'll see the follow-up applications come then as the initial wave moves up. We'll see that second wave come up with the proxy apps. And so I kind of want to make a GIF file or something, or a GIF file, or whatever they're called, to show how that's working. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's cool. I mean, it gives me real feedback too, and people using it in LA and down in Arizona, and so it's interesting. We're kind of just getting into the season, and obviously there's a lot of test applications here. But if I zoom out with all the different golf courses that have signed up and used it, you can see I'm getting a nice swath of America being shown here. And I think that this information's out there, but this is the 21st century. Everything is out there. So let's use this to help each other out and to scout for pests.
Well, we'll make sure that you document as of right now how many active users you have, so that if you get more, the impact of this stupid TV show that we have.
And it's cool. The companies too have been very supportive, like Bayer and New Farm and CPro. I mean, they're recommending to their clients, give this a shot. It's free. It's from Nebraska. It's not from us. But we think that this tool can really help out. And so, I have zero marketing budget, spend all my money building a dumb thing. And so now it's kind of word of mouth and that type of avenue. And we had 0 users on pretty much the first of the year, and we're up to 1,000, and there's 16,000 golf courses in the country. So I'm pretty, happy with the growth we've seen in the last 4 or 5 months.
So that's just in the last 4 or 5 months. You didn't launch that till.
Yep. We actually crashed the server when I launched it because I didn't tell my developer, so he didn't turn the bandwidth up. So typical. First time you're opening an app or something, you go, oh, here you go, promote it on Twitter, and we crashed the website. So, but he says I have more bandwidth now than I will ever need, so I have to take his word for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So good. Unscreen share that, and I mean, I think that's a good overview, and I don't want to get into too much more depth because I think that's just enough to get people to.
Yeah. Well, and we have like 6 or 7 tutorials on our YouTube page, which is just youtube.com/UNLturf. So if you go to our channel, you can do a whole bunch of tutorials about how to set up your golf course and define your sprayer setting and all that. So, and just email me. My email's all over that thing. So just shoot me emails, and I'm happy to help you out and get back, especially if it's more of a how to use it. If there's a bug too, let us know so we can get any bugs fixed as we're kind of getting into the season here.
That's awesome. It's even more powerful than I thought, because I was thinking it was going to be more growing degree days and PGRs, but it really does allow you to select a bunch of stuff. I think from my standpoint, which is where TurfPath and the mobile app that I have, where we wanted to go before, again, having to try and hire a developer and spend $250,000 to do it.
Yeah.
Where we wanted to go was similar to those maps that you have, which is like, crowdsourcing the applications so you can at least see what the heck's going on. So
yeah, well, that's the nice thing too, because you do it when you make the application. So I don't have to actually go to the user. If I'm a user, I don't have to go to actually a different button to report it. You're just reporting it by setting up your app.
Right.
And so that makes people more willing to do that. I mean, you can actually report your pests if you like, but majority of those reports are just generated based on the data, so from the applications.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we have a few minutes left, and what I wanted to do, I know you're doing some other research, a lot of research in Nebraska, but one of the projects that I was interested in the most was the work that you're doing with one of your PhD students looking at iron layering on the USGA green. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that and the premise behind it and the thought process and what you're finding?
Yeah, so this is some pretty cool research. I got an amazing PhD student, Glenn Aubert, and he really discovered this iron layer on USGA greens when he was working in Hawaii, because he went there to surf. He's from Sheboygan, Wisconsin. He's a surfer. So he did an internship in Hawaii, and the greens were having these issues where we're having this iron layer forming at the sand gravel interface of a USGA spec green. And I mean, it turns it into a bathtub. It cements all the iron together. So water just doesn't fill there, and then we start seeing a lot of black layer. And so the black layer, caused the superintendent then to dig deeper and see, holy crap, this thing's all cemented together. And so he sold that to his master's, going around looking at it and characterizing it. It happens across the entire country. And so now Glenn's here with me, and we're looking at, why does that form? And so we're finding things like pH of the sand versus pH of the gravel, and different redox chemistry and amounts of iron applications we put down in our fertilizers can all be changing our risk of developing this impermeable iron, bathtub situation that we're seeing. So he's got some, pretty cool columns. We have an X-ray gun that shoots X-rays into the columns, and so we can real-time measure iron accumulation in the columns without having to harvest them like you would in an old-fashioned kind of grind and fine type soil chemistry situation. So it's pretty neat to he just built an auto sampler for the X-ray gun, and it actually just goes through and it measures on 1-inch increments up and down these columns over time, and we're seeing things that whenever you have acidic sands versus alkaline gravel layers, you have this pH discontinuity. You have a textural discontinuity. We have a dry gravel layer on top of a wet sand, right at that perched water table that you hear about. And so all these factors are leading to this pretty much rusting or oxidation of iron at that interface that's cementing everything together. And so, I think as we're speccing out greens nowadays, we're might have to start paying a little more attention to the parent materials, the pH, the mineralogy, to help to make sure that we're minimizing some of these different risk factors that getting us to occur.
So what do you think? I mean, I know you're still doing the research and it's ongoing.
Yeah.
Some of the primary main factors would be in terms of people to look out for?
That pH, the big pH difference is going to be one of them, especially if you have an acidic sand on top of a calcareous gravel.
Solubilizing the iron and then
so it's moving through in a soluble form, and then it's getting down to that pH, and it's going to be a pH plus the water content and the different state. So you're going to go from a soluble iron to an insoluble iron because of the oxygen in the gravel layer versus more anaerobic soil, and so those things are all going to kind of come together and form these iron layers, and they can form not even always at that iron or at that sand gravel interface. If you have fine top dressing sand that you've used on top of a coarse soil, you have the potential for a little saturated zone at that interface, and if there's differences in pH there, we're putting down a lot of iron fertilizers, we're just accelerating and increasing that risk of it forming. We don't have a cookie cutter example yet. We're still really early on in this. I'm sure it's going to be a lot evolving over time, because you have situations where you think it'd be favorable and there'll be nothing there, and then you'll have a situation where it would seem less favorable and we'll see some of that iron layer forming. So that's one thing he was been interested in. So it's still really early. We're just getting our columns going and are starting our treatments up here, but it should be pretty interesting. We have, acidic sand over acidic gravel and calcareous sand over calcareous gravel, and then the combinations of the two. And then we have little, platinum electrodes going in all over the place to measure redox potentials and oxygen levels. And so it's some serious soil chemistry, soil pedology that we're kind of investigating right now.
That's awesome. So we look forward to maybe seeing some of that at an upcoming crop science show. We can see the results.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you're gonna be hearing a lot about it. Even little things too, like we thought there's a golf course, the Preserve down in Biloxi, Mississippi area. They had us down thinking that they had it, and it looks like it, and we sampled it, and it was just a layer of clay that had formed between the sand and the gravel. We know that the USGA spec allows 3% clay. Where did that come from? Is that really a safe number? And so we're kind of reevaluating a lot of those chemical and physical properties of USGA spec mixes. And the ultimate end goal would be to have, user guides to help minimize risk and then mitigate problems when they occur.
Yeah, the last thing you need to do is, and everybody knows that, but build something that ultimately is going to cause you a problem. You don't want to have to dig up an entire green. And
yeah, I mean, if it forms in 10 years, and then, you'd rebuild it the same way, and in 10 years it fails again. Or we saw some greens that are failing at 5 years because of these soil chemical issues that aren't really addressed in any of the specs for any type of, type greens, California, USGA, whatever, this sand over gravel, sand over drain tile situation.
What do you think? Do you think that there'll be a physical way, not a physical, a non-physical way to address maybe some of the iron accumulation issues? I mean, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, we want to look at chelates. So actually in egg soils, they are tiled. Sometimes they'll see this, they'll call it iron ochre, will be forming inside those drain tile lines. And some of the things that they do is going out with different chelates, and that supposedly helps to mitigate that. So we haven't looked at that at all in the turf situation, but it's something to look at. I've always seen some of these new technologies, maybe that A2, G2 machine that pumps air into the soil and moves it around. Maybe that fractures it. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I'm just speculating here. But it's kind of different technologies that, okay, we've shown it can occur, and now it's why does it occur, and then how do we recover from it and prevent it from happening in the future?
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think that that's a lot of good information, and I hope you get some more traffic and some more interest. Why don't we do this? Why don't we wrap up? And in doing that, why don't you kind of anything you want to promote or give the website out again, or anything coming up? Go ahead and let us know.
Sure. So I encourage you, if you haven't already done it, check out Greenkeeper, which is greenkeeperapp.com. Again, it's a website. It's a web app. It's not on their app store. Greenkeeperapp.com. And then our turf website, which is just turf.unl, University of Nebraska Lincoln.edu. And then we have our blogs on there. We have content on there. And then just follow us on Twitter. We try to tweet, once a day or so to keep you informed of what's going on at our turf program. And we're really excited. Cole Thompson is taking a job with us as our integrated turf management specialist position. He'll be starting in July, and so we're really excited with the direction that the Nebraska turf program is going. And just encourage your listeners to check us out. And if you got any students that need to come to the turf program, you can go to Penn State, but you can also come to Nebraska too. So keep us in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that there's a big difference and a big gap in terms of the land.
Yeah, it's just a little bit. Some buffalo grass.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. The app was even more in depth than I thought, so I'm glad that we got to share that in the first episode. We'll make sure that we keep sharing this around and keep retweeting out this episode. I know I sent you some links too, so you can put it up.
Yep.
We'll just see how it goes. But good luck with it this year, and I hope that you have it kind of explode. And now that you have the bandwidth to handle it, it'll be good.
Yeah, I mean, we're just going to keep rolling stuff out. So the more people sign up, the more money I'll dump into this thing. So let's see how far it can go.
Okay, the one thing that I wanted to do, which I'm not prepared to do, but I wanted to do is just mention our next episode, and I was going to see who's coming on, when that is. I have it here somewhere. Sorry, bear with me. Dr. Brandon Horvath from the University of Tennessee will be on to talk about some of his latest research, and that's going to be May 23rd. I don't know what day of the week that is, but it's around 10 a.m. on May 23rd. So that'll be our next episode. And we've got a full lineup of, I think maybe 11 set speakers for the Tom and John Show this year. And we have 4 or 5 open spots. So if you go to the tomandjohnshow.com, you can see our episode guide. And if you're interested in being on the show, you can check that out and sign up there as well. So once again, Bill Kreuser, University of Nebraska, Lincoln, Research and Extension Specialist in Turf. Thanks again for joining us. And Bill, I appreciate you being on.
Yep. Thanks a lot. See you, John. We had fun.
Great.